I'm going to talk about religious projection, generally, or maybe even specifically, about Christians projecting their own characteristics and attributes onto atheists, or people who accept evolution. One of the first things that Christians or that creationists say is that evolution teaches that we come from dirt. And in fact, that's not the case. Evolution is about the proliferation of species based on multiple generations, each generation becoming a little bit more tailored to the environment than the previous one. Nothing in that says anything about dirt. If you're talking about abiogenesis, the life from non-life, then there is something to discuss there, but that's not evolution. And abiogenesis, there's still lots of stuff that they're deciding or trying to solidify. So it's still a rough sketch. It's not a proper theory yet. But for Christians or creationists, the creationists literally believe that man came from dirt, because in Genesis it says God took dust, formed him into the shape of a man, and blew life into his nostrils. So creationists literally believe man came from dirt, whereas those who accept evolution, it's not a part of it. So that's a Christian projection. Another one is random chance. Again, they say evolution is based on random chance. That, you know, a windstorm through a junkyard could make a 747. Again, this is a straw man. This is not what evolution says. But if you want to talk random chance, let's talk about prayer. Because will God answer your prayer? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. You just don't know. And you know what? If you just don't know, if there's no way to tell, it's random chance. So Christians, if they believe God ever answers prayers, believe in random chance. Science is a religion or a faith. It's amusing to me that actually they think of this as an attack because, well, you know, that's what they ascribe to as a religion. So it's funny that by basically saying, haha, you're a religion too, they're trying to attack us. But a religion or a faith involves belief in something without evidence. Science is the opposite. It's belief because of evidence. So it's not a religion. And science changes its precepts all the time. As new evidence comes to light, theories are changed or maybe even sometimes thrown away. But supposedly, God's word never changes. So that's religious dogma, out of context. How many of you, rationalists or non-Christians, non-religious, have ever plucked something out of the Bible to describe or to show a nasty concept and then have a Christian cry, out of context? It's not out of context, because what out of context means is if you were to read a little bit more, you discover what the person was really saying. So an out of context quote is one where you're trying to make the person say something that they didn't say. I'll give you a true example of out of context. If I was to say Hitler was really good at killing people, and somebody just chopped it off halfway and said, Ockhamkant said Hitler was really good, that's out of context, because that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is he was really good at killing people. But in the Bible, you can bring up any kind of quote that shows some kind of nastiness, and they'll say, out of context, if you look in this other book over here, it says this. That's not out of context. That's some other book creating a brand new context. But Christians do practice out of context. They will take snippets out of Richard Dawkins' book and try to make it like, in one of his interviews, for example, he says, I don't think we were put here to be comfortable. And somebody actually tried to say that, aha, see, he believes that we were put here. But in fact, obviously he doesn't believe that. So you're taking him out of context to make him say something he clearly doesn't actually believe. So that's just playing games. That's not actually making a legitimate point. And another example, an even better example, is when they quote Darwin out of his book, and they do actually lift a real quote out of his book where he says that, now I'll have to paraphrase it, but that he freely admits that that believing that or the appearance of believing that the eye could evolve, it goes against all rationality. But then that's where they stop it. However, if you actually read the next paragraph, it says, but if there can be shown actual use for all the different intermediate stages, then he would have no choice but to accept it. So that's out of context. There is a classic Christian example of taking something out of context and making Darwin say something that he didn't actually say. Making religion illegal. I've seen many times where Christians say that if atheists had their way, that we would make religion illegal. And this is nonsense. There's no way. I've never heard of any atheist saying that they would forcibly remove somebody's religion. Most atheists think that, or agree, that if Christians were to willingly drop their religion, willingly to leave it behind, willingly, join the light, that would be great. And I feel that way too. I think it'd be wonderful if Christians would willingly leave their religion behind. But I would never try and force it from anyone. That's horrible. Forcing someone to think in a certain way, or forcing someone on pain of death or imprisonment or torture to adopt your point of view is horrible. And guess what? It's the Christians who did that. During the Inquisition, if you were a heretic, if you were an unbeliever, if you were an atheist, you were tortured either to death or to the point where you recanted. So the Christians are the ones who would make atheism illegal if they could, not the atheists making Christians illegal. And look at things like, who was it in Afghanistan who blew up those ancient religious statues? Was it atheists? No, it was the Muslims. And who is it in Iraq who's blowing up the mosques? Is it atheists? No, it's other Sunnis. Or it's the Sunnis blowing up the Shia mosques and the Shia blowing up the Sunni mosques. So basically, the religious guys are blowing up each other's mosques. Atheists aren't a part of it. I know personally, I look at these religious artifacts or religious areas as historical monuments. Why would I want to blow them up? But obviously they do. Evolution leads to genocide. Belief in evolution or acceptance of evolution doesn't lead to anything in particular. It's like saying acceptance of the theory of gravity leads to genocide. It's nonsense. But I want you to go through the Bible and see if you can find places where God demands killing, one group to kill another group, demands the genocide of, say, the Ammonites or the Amorites. I think it's the Ammonites. There's genocide after genocide in the Bible, and let's not forget God also kills everybody. So I would say Christianity demands more death than evolution. And life has no meaning. If you believe that there is no God, then what's the meaning to life? Well, the meaning to life is whatever you assign it. It's whatever you decide your meaning is. You decide what the meaning of your life is. Don't put the responsibility off on someone else. But think about it. For a Christian, what is the meaning of life? This life is going to be, if you actually believe that you're going to live forever, then this measly 100-year lifespan here is nothing. It's a mere blip in the overall infinite time span. So your life here means nothing. And the fact that you're going to have an infinite life after this, that's like, why would this time be valuable for anything? And what is the Christian meaning of life anyway? According to the Bible, it's to worship God. God has made you as a little worshiping ass kisser. That's your job here, to kiss God's ass. Now, honestly, I would much rather make up my own meaning than to be a ass kisser. So I don't understand why you think that kissing God's ass for eternity is somehow a better meaning than anything that you could come up with on your own.